In about an hour, Vice President Kamala Harris and her running mate, Governor Tim Walz, will be speaking at a rally outside Phoenix, Arizona. Take a look at the video here showing the endless line of supporters trying to get into the event. The campaign handed out water and Gatorade to those waiting in line, braving the 105-degree temperatures. It will be Harris and Walz's fourth visit to a battleground state just this week and the first out west as they continue to roll out the new Democratic ticket. Ahead of the visit, the campaign released a new ad on a key issue, immigration.
Kamala Harris has spent decades fighting violent crime. As a border state prosecutor, she took on drug cartels and jailed gang members for smuggling weapons and drugs across the border. As vice president, she backed the toughest border control bill in decades. And as president, she will hire thousands more border agents and crack down on fentanyl and human trafficking. Fixing the border is tough. So is Kamala Harris.
All of this comes as the Harris-Walz ticket picked up an historic endorsement today from the political arm of the oldest Latino civil rights group, the League of United Latin American Citizens, or LULAC. It's the group's first endorsement of any political candidate in its 95-year history. Joining me now is Basil Smikle, Democratic strategist and MSNBC political analyst, and Dean Obeidallah, MSNBC columnist and host of the Dean Obeidallah Show on SiriusXM. Basil, I want to start with you as a Dem strategist. That's a big deal. LULAC actually doesn't endorse candidates. Back when I was working in the business, that would have been a great thing for a lot of these previous candidates to have. What do you think is the relevance of that endorsement, particularly as the campaign heads to Arizona, and of that immigration ad?
Well, to start off, I think it touches on something that Nancy Pelosi said earlier, that these are really that Donald Trump has this way of this putting this pall over America, right? This kind of darkness. And, you know, when they talk, and if you look at the endorsement, when talking about immigrant communities and migrant communities in the way that he is, you know, the murderers, the rapists, that he's always talked about them as, you know, it goes to the importance and the urgency of this moment to try to rewrite and reverse that entire narrative and to actually get really smart policymaking on the table. That's why that ad is so important and critical. It shows that she would be both tough but also compassionate, and also bringing in the human trafficking and the fentanyl is incredibly important. And I would also add that I believe that Latino voters are now, you know, she's doing better among Latino voters than even Joe Biden did. And that means Arizona and Nevada are in play in ways that they were not before. Extremely important moment for the campaign, and she holds this really tough line. It could mean success in November.
And also, by the way, I just saw a poll today that she's polling ahead in Miami-Dade, which was starting to go redder and redder and redder, but she's now polling ahead in Miami-Dade. I mean, Dean Obeidallah, there's a sort of a thing in talk radio and also in politics that you can't talk people out of what they believe, right? You can argue with them, but it's hard to talk people down from it. There's a paranoia and anger about the border in the country that's disproportionate to the actual, number of people coming in. Border crossings are down. You cannot argue these facts with people. People have developed this sort of anger about the border around the country, even if they're not near the border. Do you think it's significant? And do you hear this just on the radio with your callers? And what do you make of the strategy of the Harris-Walz campaign to go right at it?
Look, Donald Trump every night is scapegoating, demonizing the Latino community and migrants. That's part of the reason. I mean, I love this announcement, this endorsement. LULAC is trying to wake up America. Things are not normal. We're doing something we've never done in our 100 years as an organization. And in the statement by Domingo Garcia, he said, it's not just for our community, it's for our democracy. That's why they're doing this. So you've got Donald Trump out there saying migrants are bringing crime. No, you know who's bringing crime? Donald Trump is bringing crime. He should have to check in the chief of police at every community he goes to and say, hey, I'm the convicted felon who was adjudicated a rapist who attempted a coup. He should have to report to the authorities everywhere he goes. He doesn't. I think this is vitally important. Look, the immigration issue, it plays pretty well. The number one issue is inflation. There's a new ad that Kamala Harris in it talks about greedflation by corporations. I would recommend leaning into that a lot. Sherrod Brown and Bob Casey and their races are doing that in Ohio and Pennsylvania, respectively. It's really working. It resonates. To me, that's a bigger issue than immigration to get our base out to come out and vote.
Yeah. And by the way, Donald Trump is planning to round up migrants, but you think they're going to be really super discerning about which brown people they're putting in the camps? I think, Latino voters for Trump, think about it, because they're not going to be super discerning. They're just going to grab brown people. I want to play a thing. We're talking with Speaker Emerita Pelosi, and I didn't get a chance to get to it with her. I want to play this lie that Donald Trump did in his string of lies yesterday, that weird, sundowning press conference that he did. This is a story he told about Willie Brown. And I want you all to note that he talked about Willie Brown. All right, take a listen.
I know Willie Brown very well. In fact, I went down in a helicopter with him. We thought maybe this is the end. He told me terrible things about her.
Okay. That's not who he meant. Trump was never in a helicopter with Willie Brown. Willie Brown came out with a statement. He laughed when he heard Trump's allegations and said he's nothing but respect and admiration for Kamala Harris, for Vice President Harris. Willie Brown says he looks forward to electing her to be the president and says the debate will probably be unfair because Trump is so inept. The Brown that he meant, Dean, was Jerry Brown. Jerry Brown, who was the governor, but said that he's never said anything bad about Vice President Harris either. It was Gavin Newsom who was in a helicopter with Trump when they were surveying wildfire damage. And he said that he remembers Trump worrying about the helicopter crashing, calling the town Pleasure instead of Paradise, and suggesting California rake its forests. Trump never had an emergency landing in the helicopter. So he got the wrong person. He completely missed the person it really was about. He doesn't know the difference between Willie Brown and Jerry Brown. Why are we not having a serious conversation about his cognitive decline, Dean? Because that was sundowning.
When I watched that press conference, forget politics. I thought, should we call somebody? Because something is really wrong here. This is not even political. There's something deeply wrong with the guy. Look, is he just lying like normal, or are we in a new world of delusional, detached from reality? And I think that's where we were heading, to be blunt and honest. That's where we are. Nothing makes sense. And he has no one around him who will ever fact check into his face. Whoever say, hey, you know what? That's not right, boss. Because you do, you're gone. That's what happens. So this is a very dangerous place. And I think it's great you're raising it. We have to.
Let's do one more thing over here with you, Basil. Trump going all in on these weird, lonely young dudes who hate women. He did this interview with this guy, Aiden Ross. Can we show the dancing? Can we just show the dancing? I don't understand it. He's mad at Joe Rogan and Tim Pool because they're both endorsing RFK Jr. Do we have the dancing video? I hope we do. No? Oh, we don't have it. Basil, just imagine it in your mind. Donald Trump doing this. He thinks that's cool. Every day he looks older. Every day he looks older and more feeble.
He does, and I'm glad that we're talking about it, because he should be called out with the same energy that folks talk about this with respect to Joe Biden, even though it's not the same. It is not the same. Donald Trump is combining
Marbles
both the
is still in there.
But that's my point, right? Like, Donald Trump and you said the sundowning, and it really did seem like that. My whole feed was like, what is this guy talking about, right? And so, the fact that he's actually now concerned about Joe Rogan and that he's coming out against him because of the RFK, to me, it really does show that they don't know what to do. Everything they've tried, it's not sticking.
It's not working.
And they're scared.
Very quickly, in 15 seconds, 20 seconds, we didn't get to it, but I wanted to ask you, Dean, what did you make of Vice President Harris's response to the protesters, the pro-Palestinian protesters yesterday? Good response, change the response? Tell me very quickly. Sorry.
I think it was better the conversation she had backstage with two of the leaders of the Uncommitted movement, who are Palestinian American, dealing with a heckler. I'm a comedian. Hecklers are very hard. You can't have a conversation. And by the way, with Trump, this is now elder abuse. We've entered the world of elder abuse with Donald Trump. Does anybody love him? Go talk to him and tell him to go play golf and stop this election stuff.
I wanted to get that out. She did meet with with a different set of people who were from the Uncommitted movement before that happened. Basil Smikle, Dean Obeidallah. That is very important. Thank you very much.